Hi, everybody. How are you today? I hope you are doing well. Welcome to You Still Matter, a show about seniors and those who love them. If it's your first time here, welcome, 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 welcome to the You Still Matter family. Well, I have one of our favorite guests. She is back today. Her name is Jane Lomas. You probably remember her. She was teaching us about falling, and she even taught us how to fall correctly. Now, who knew there was such a thing? Hey, Jane, how are you?
I am great, Donna. How are you? Are
I
you
am
ready for the
good.
holidays?
I am kind of getting there. How
Kind
about
of.
you?
Exactly.
What about
That's
you?
not quite yet.
Yeah.
I'm not quite ready, but I'm working on it.
Yeah, still has some time. Still has some
Right.
time.
Exactly.
And I know today you want to share with our listeners and viewers, you want to share watching out for some red flags, if you will, when visiting, when going to visit during this holiday season, right?
It- exactly right. Exactly right.
Yes. So,
It's a great time to get back together with your loved ones, and maybe you haven't seen them for a while, and you just notice how they may be getting along, and it may it may startle you. It may actually even frighten you to see how they've been living or what's going on in their life. In January and February, the attendance or the number of folks that go into assisted or active living increases because of over the holidays, loved ones have noticed that there's been some changes in their loved ones, and they want to make sure they're taken care of. So I just want to let you know about some red flags to look out for.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Go right ahead and start
Well,
naming
great.
those because we definitely need those.
Well, great. Well, there's a few categories that you look for. There's physical health and safety, home comfort, mental well-being, social engagement, finances, hygiene, and medication management. So all those are the main components that you want to be looking at. So when we're talking about physical safety, you want to look for if there's been any like weight loss over the past since your last visit that you didn't notice before, or that your loved one's tired and has unexplained bruises. Those can all hint at mobility and health issues. And if they're struggling to get out of a chair, if they're not moving confidently anymore, it might be time to start talking about fall prevention, like we talked about last time.
Hmm.
A term I heard in a meeting this week is called furniture surfing. They move from couch to chair, holding themselves up or helping them stay up. So if you notice that, you're noticing they're not confident enough to just be independent. And a solution for that, you might want to think about a checkup with a physician. So just kind of to see how they're doing. If they're not steady on their feet, and there's maybe some underlying cause.
Hmm.
For home comfort, we talked about clutterness, and that is the major cause of falls in people's homes. Even though, and the majority of falls happen in the bathroom due to slippery surfaces, but clutter, if the lights are dim, if there are cords, tripping hazards, those can cause people to fall. And sometimes it's not neglect; it just might be some tasks for them have become overwhelming.
Hmm.
So you might want to consider having them do having someone come in and do a home safety assessment, or maybe some gentle conversations about falling. A lot of times when we question our seniors about whether or not they've fallen, they're kind of in a denial situation where they're like, "Oh no, no, I haven't fallen," but maybe they're thinking to themselves, "I caught myself." Well, if they
Hmm.
caught themselves, they really were falling. You know what I mean? So it comes down to asking the right questions. And you definitely want to be gentle about that with them because it's confronting to ask them if they're having some issues.
Interesting.
Now,
And
yeah,
if I can just
please
interject
do.
really
Yeah,
quick,
yeah.
and for those
I don't
who,
want to keep running on like a motor mouth.
oh no, no worries
Please
whatsoever.
do.
For those who this may be your first time seeing Jane, Jane is a senior home coach. So I
Thank you.
want you to have an idea of, what she really does. So, and she's been very informative, and I certainly want to encourage you to go back and look at the previous episode that she did. But go right ahead. That's a really good idea, and especially when you're seeing them, in real time, because oftentimes you can ask these questions, what, over the phone or via Zoom or the other social media platforms that we sometimes
Right.
use to connect with our loved ones. So yeah,
True.
that's a great idea to be able to create this type of a checklist and things that you really are able to put your own eyes on and to see.
Exactly. Exactly. Um, and I do have a checklist. If somebody, would like to reach out, and I'd be glad to send it to them.
Mhm.
My next category is mental well-being. So if they're repeating themselves frequently, or if they're forgetting, they may have some confusion. Well, that could be early signs of a cognitive decline. And at that point, maybe you might want to consider a cognitive function test and having them just kind of a doctor look at them. I mean, sometimes it's easy to write off forgetfulness, but it may not be just forgetfulness when we're getting old. And it may be. In my case, it is. I'm just forgetful.
Mhm.
The next one is social engagement. Now, this is so important because when people start isolating, they start declining. So if they've stopped seeing friends or they've lost interest in their favorite activities, well, it's up, they may be isolating themselves. And if they're seeming overwhelmed by company, if there's like too much, what's the word? There's a word for when you've got too much input and they can't kind of separate it or be calm about it. That could also be a red flag for cognitive changes. So if you're seeing that they're not getting out, they're isolating, they're not visiting friends, well, you might want to look into some resources for them, like some senior centers that have activities, some groups that are doing things that that loved one likes to do. And you may even think about finding some technology to connect that loved one to family and friends. Now, sometimes a phone might be a little overwhelming for a senior. Cell phones baffle me at times, but they have some wonderful devices there's one called a granny pad, and it's like a very simplified iPad where they can push like a button and it connects to a loved one and they can see that person on the screen. So just something to think about that's out there for folks.
Great idea. I know I was speaking with a senior, one of my neighbors, and I have an opportunity to, take her out sometimes when I'm going out so that she can get out of the house, right? Because she talks about
Right.
how, you know, she gets bored, just being in the house, and her mobility is not where she would like for it to be, right? Where it once
Mhm.
was. And but she was telling me that she has a phone in her home, and the phone basically you can when the person is speaking, she can
Mhm.
actually read everything that you're saying. So it's like
Ah,
a speech to text, I think,
right.
type of phone, which she said is really good because then she knows she doesn't miss anything. So that's something else that
That's
makes
a, such a that's a great idea. I
yeah,
use subtitles when I'm watching TV because I lose a lot of the dialogue.
sure,
So that's a good point.
yeah.
Thanks, Donna. Well, and then so the next one is finances. So if you go there and you see stacks of bills, perhaps, or maybe there's multiple charity letters asking for money or unopened mail, well, that just might be they're becoming overwhelmed with those sort of tasks.
Mhm.
And if they're missing money or if they're having some unusual spending habits, I've heard stories about seniors who, get taken by that scam about someone who pretends to be a loved one and needs money to get out of jail, or
Mhm.
um, they fall for a scam, an email scam where they start taking out of your account. You just really need to watch out for that. And with in my case, my mom was 80, 85 when I moved to be close to her. And after a little bit of time, I started taking over paying her bills for her because she just didn't want to do it anymore. And that way, I know they got paid. She knew they got paid. And there's also automatic payments. You could set that up so they're automatically paid. So it just might relieve a lot of stress for your loved ones.
Mhm. Great, sounds great.
Yeah. And then hygiene. Sometimes seniors may not be changing out of their clothes, may not be bathing frequently. A lot of that may be because it's painful. They have arthritis, they can't get out of their clothes, they can't reach things up high or adjust the shower. So that could also be a sign that the daily routines are just a little too much. And you just might want to have a really kind conversation with that loved one and ask them if there's any underlying issues. If it is hard to bathe, if they're having problems with their bathroom, their toilet routine, then you might want to think about some maybe in-home care or helping them address those sort of things.
Mhm. And
Um,
and I'm so glad you said a kind conversation because I know oftentimes it can be not so kind, I guess that because I know that other seniors have shared that it seems as though that they're being interrogated, right?
mhm,
Um, and I know that there was this one lady I was in this group and she was sharing and she said, I had to tell my daughter that, look, I'm the mother and you're the daughter. Why are you
mhm.
interrogating me about,
Right?
what I'm doing? I know how to take care of myself and so on and so forth, right?
Yes,
And who
yes. You're not the boss of me.
right, exactly. Exactly. So, I raised you. But, it's so again, I'm glad you said kind because,
Mhm.
it can be very delicate.
It is. It can be. Yes.
Yeah. So even
So true.
practicing, you may even role play with somebody before you even say something to them, just to make
Hmm.
sure that you're being as less, or you're going to cause them to be as less defensive as possible.
And distressed as well.
Yeah.
You want to be asking them probing questions, but so that they can self-discover, so that when
Mhm.
it's their idea, it's the right idea instead of coming from you, the daughter or the loved one, where you're telling them what you think they should do. So
Mhm.
it's much more effective to have them self-discover.
Mhm.
Yeah, for
I like
sure.
that. Yeah, because you want to make sure that these are, when you're making decisions, they're
Mhm.
a part of that decision making, right?
Exactly. Right.
So
Right.
it doesn't feel as,
Very definitely.
yeah, it doesn't feel like you really are coming in and you're just telling them what to do and so on and so on. Because we don't want to do that. We want to be
No,
mild. We want to be very mild when we do that. But
that's why I'm a coach,
yeah, yeah, which is
right?
great. Yeah, it's great. It's a great information. And guys, we'll be back in just a moment. We're going to take a quick break. Have you, or perhaps a youth that you know, ever been bullied? Ever felt self conscious about yourself? Have you ever thought that you were working on a project and you just could not finish? You wanted to quit? Well, if that is the case, listen, I have something for you. It's called My Forever Affirmations Book and Journal. It is just simply a quick, to the point book of affirmations that will give you a boost of confidence when you read or recite them. Okay, very quick, poetic style. And so if you need to be encouraged, and who doesn't, because I know I do, then I want to invite you to go to Amazon.com, type in My Forever Affirmations Book and Journal by Donna Page Riley, and listen. You will be glad that you did, and you will be encouraged. All right, we are back when we are continuing our conversation with Jane Lomas, and she is giving us some wonderful red flags that we should look and be aware of when we're going to visit seniors. And whether it's our family members or, you
Or
may,
a neighbor.
right, or a neighbor. And that's something that we do too, Jane. We want to do, especially over the holiday seasons, because I like to always say that, holidays for most people are really exciting and jolly, but you know what? They're not exciting and jolly for everybody's because everybody
Right.
may not be feeling that spirit. And we talked a little about the mental health awareness
Mhm.
of that. So we want to make sure that, we're
And the
really
loneliness when
right.
you're by yourself, right? Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's really
Right.
important. So I'm going to let you go ahead and continue. You're giving us some great
Okay.
points. Thank you for
All
that.
right, wonderful. My next one is physical abilities, and that's if you notice them having trouble with buttons or maybe feeding themselves with utensils, handwriting. I think that was part of the reason why my mom wanted me to write bills is because her handwriting was getting a little illegible
Hmm.
and or not as clear, I guess, as it had been.
Hmm.
And other things to look at if they've had changes in their gait or if their posture is a little odd, that can indicate some balance or strength issues. And at that point, a solution to that, you might want to consider having an occupational therapist come in and just kind of assess the person and see if there's some sort of exercises or things they could do to either modify the home or help them make the correction so that those things fix themselves.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then medication management. My mom had she was on heart medication, and I think she had a couple other pills that she took daily. But she was pretty organized. She had her little pill organizations, but organizer.
Hmm.
But if they're missing doses or if there's duplicate bottles of the same medication, things that have been expired, well, that can just suggest confusion and difficulty in keeping things organized.
Hmm.
And at that point, you might want to talk to your loved one about the pill organizers. I mean, they've got dispensers now that automatically dispense it at a certain time, just the right pills. Of course, they have to be loaded by a human, but that would just really help them make sure they're getting the medication they need
Hmm.
at the time they need it.
And probably reminders
Hmm.
as well. I know
Right.
that my brother uses a device that will remind him. She'll say, "Okay, it's 3
Time to
o'clock.
take a pill.
It's time
Take
to
your blue
take
pill.
take your medication." And so, which is great. And I understand a lot of people use those and they come in
Mhm.
handy. And of course, different alarms, different type of alarms
Right. Oh,
that work.
smartwatches are so handy with that sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
Set the timers, they can count our steps, they can do all sorts of personal stuff and check email, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Which is great. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. And just to make sure that you are working with seniors so that they feel comfortable about using these devices because some of those devices can be a little confusing
Mhm.
and intimidating, if you will.
Mhm.
I'm an early senior, and some of them I'm like, oh man, let me see, and I learn how to do this, and remember how to do this. So yeah,
Right.
so yeah.
It's true. Yes. It can be intimidating for sure for
Hmm.
seniors. And then what's it going to do? It'll just sit in a drawer somewhere and won't get used at all.
Hmm.
It'll
Right.
just be totally,
That's,
sorry, not going to mess with that. So
hmm.
for sure. So, spotting one or two of these red flags when you're home, enjoying the holidays with your family, it doesn't mean to panic. It's an opportunity. You, uh, you're there to visit, you're there to show your love, and you just really can see how they're really doing. And when you notice these red flags, if something feels off, it's time to start a conversation now. Just a little attention, a little love, and a little probing. You can see what sort of help they might need, what sort of help you can give, and what will make them and you feel better
Hmm.
when you
Yeah,
go home. You don't want to go home and feel like, oh my gosh, you want to
right.
have a game plan.
Right. Great tips. Great tips
Yes.
as always. Certainly do appreciate. Gosh, that's some really good information, especially to be able to prepare to have in advance, right? It's
Hmm.
really, really good. And so, so everyone, I always, and let me say again, thank you for always bringing or sending us messages. And some of you send them via email, which is you still matter 55 at Gmail. Thank you when you do that. And some of you post them directly on our below on our post if you are looking at this via YouTube. Okay, so. And you know, I always like to share a few. So today is no different. I've received, when Jane was on before, I've already received some comments and I shared them on another episode, but I do want to share some now. Here's one. It says, Miss Donna, thank you for having Miss Jane teach us how to fall. I practiced and had my husband do the same. We are 78 years old, and this is Desi and Aaron in Boston, Massachusetts. Very
Wow.
good, Desi and
Yeah.
Aaron. We're so proud of you all, aren't we, Jane?
Yes, we are. Keep practicing.
Yes, yes.
Huh?
And I know that was something when you mentioned that, I thought, man, I would never even think to do that, but that was great.
Mhm.
And again, guys, if you missed the other episode, you want to definitely go back and pull that up. It's on falling. And here's one that says, "Thank you for taking time to make seniors important. Thank you for your show. You still matter also." And this comes from Matthew in Atlanta, Georgia. Matthew, thank you so much for sharing that and sending that. And so we so appreciate it. And we appreciate you all listen. Of course, you know that we are on now on every first and third Thursday. But if we come on anytime before then, you'll know if you subscribe. So hit that subscribe button. And thank you so much for those of you who share the episode with others. I know, I think on the last episode, we had someone that said that they share the show with their senior group, which is great. And so we
That is
do.
great.
Yeah, we really appreciate that because
Mhm.
we're trying to get the information out. And yes, we do care about seniors and
We
are
do.
really trying to make an impact and a difference. Okay. All right. So, and give us a thumbs up, click that thumbs up button and just share, 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 share. Sharing means that you're caring and we appreciate it. Well,
It does.
again, thank you, Jane, for hanging out with us again today. Certainly appreciate
Thank you for
all the
having me.
absolutely and all the valuable information that you shared. I'm so grateful for that. And I always want to remind you that no matter who you are, no matter where where you are globally, right? No matter
Right.
what you may be facing, always remember that you
Yes.
still matter. All right. So thanks
Amen.
again for tuning in. Take care. God bless, and we'll see you soon on the next episode. Bye for now.
Bye.